Hello everyone, back to today's first video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's first video. This will take us to around the 15th of February, so we're going into the middle part of the month with this update. It's pretty cold at the moment, so we're going to be keeping it cold for the next few days, but the weekend we'll probably see the weather becoming a little bit less cold. But how long that less cold weather lasts for, not sure. I think as we're getting to the second half of the month, got to be watching out for the chance of some significantly colder weather coming back, perhaps, with the developments that are going on stratospherically. I'll talk you through those to start off with, and then we'll have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days after that. Just to say that this evening we'll have Snow Watch coming up for you, so that'll be around 7 o'clock this evening. There's going to be a little bit of snow tonight and tomorrow, so we'll have the detail on that for you. This evening, I thought we'd just begin with this. It's CFSV2 temperature forecast for February. This was from a couple of weeks ago, and you can see that around 2 weeks ago CFS was going for a very warm February indeed. This is the temperature anomaly chart from the CFSV2. You'll see all of those dramatic sort of bright red colours there, indicating that the model was predicting only 2 or 3 weeks ago a very mild February indeed. That's the latest. What a turnaround. So now the model is going for a significantly colder than average February across many northern, central and western parts of Europe. Just the southeast of Europe really that has those warmer than average temperature anomalies. But what a change in just 2 or 3 weeks. It just goes to show you how unreliable these long-range models are. Really, the sort of technology is still in its infancy. I use them because we're pushing the boundaries, and as we use them more, hopefully they'll continue to be upgraded and they'll get more reliable over time. But this is all still very much in its infancy, and it really is unreliable. Any forecast from sort of 5 to 7 days out is going to be unreliable, and that's the proof of it again. What a change for February in just 2 or 3 months of total, 2 or 3 weeks of total flip around with what the CFSV2 was predicting only a few days ago to what it is now predicting for Europe and for the UK for February. So, development stratospherically. This is the stratospheric temperature forecast chart at 10 HPA over North Pole from the GFS. We've been talking about this a lot in the videos recently. It looks like we're heading for quite a dramatic warming of the stratosphere over the North Pole. We're starting today, so this is 5th of February. You'll see we have already got some warming taking place in the stratosphere over Russia, but the pole itself, where we've got these blue colours, actually still looking quite cold. Running through, and we see that it's around the 10th of February that we start to get this warming of the stratosphere taking place. A big warming appearing there again as we go through to around the 12th of February. Quite significant. It's probably getting to sudden stratospheric warming levels is taking place over both Greenland and also over here across northern parts of Russia, and in between we have this very big warming taking place of the stratosphere over the North Pole. We go into the extended range of the GFS, and we keep those warm temperatures going there, and a renewed burst of warming takes place around Greenland and Canada on the 17th, the 16th and the 17th of February. Another very dramatic warming appearing and pushing into the pole as well there on the 17th of February. That kind of fades a little bit, but we keep very mild temperatures, very above average temperatures going across the pole in the stratosphere right way to the 21st of February. So still looking like we're on course for this really pronounced warming of the stratosphere over North Pole. ECMWF, I won't show you it today, but ECMWF is still going for this warming as well. Been some speculation that I've seen around that the stratospheric warming at the end of December 1984 was kind of similar to this warming event. So I've got up the chart for 1984. This is Christmas Day 1984 from the ECMWF reanalysis, and you can find this at metroshield.fr. So you see, on Christmas Day 1984, there was a big cold temperatures, big cold area across the North Pole in the stratosphere. If I run you down to New Year's Eve, though, you'll see that what happened then is that we had, again, a very pronounced warming taking place of the stratosphere in that final week of December. So that's New Year's Eve, 1984. And it is kind of similar because we have got the two areas pretty much the same. So if I just go back to that chart, you'll see that on the 12th of February there, coming up, we've got the centre of the warming in two areas. It's around Greenland and also over towards northern parts of Russia, and that does look kind of similar to what we see there on New Year's Eve 1984 in very similar areas. And of course this very quickly translated into a cold block pattern. So this is how the actual charts, weather charts, were looking on Christmas Day 1984. We was in this very mild westerly flow, but we didn't have to wait very long for things to start getting much more blocked as this stratospheric warming event was taking place. And as we go into January 1985, it turns very blocked and very cold, and that was a really wintry month in January 1985. It appears that the atmospheric response to that warming occurred very, very quickly. But of course, just because that happened in 1984, 1985 doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have the same response in the same areas and over the same time frame this time. So it is quite similar in terms of the areas that are warming in the stratosphere over North Pole to those areas that warmed during the southern stratospheric warming of late December 1984, but it doesn't follow that we'll necessarily see the same atmospheric response. It doesn't necessarily follow that we'll very quickly turn really cold like we did at the start of January 1985. So for interest and to sort of compare the two, it is quite interesting, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll come away with the same result that we had in 1985. But I thought I'd throw that in anyway. 2 or 3 people have mentioned this over the past few days, but I think the first person to point out was Sean, who posts on the comment section of Gaz Westerlies. But 2 or 3 people have noticed the similarity. Right, having a look at the Central England temperature then, and obviously we'll keep you updated with the developments in the stratosphere over the next few days as we get closer to this potential sudden stratospheric warming. Just have a look at Central England temperature. So currently we stand at 4.1 degrees, which is an anomaly of 0.2 of a degree below average, so a little bit cooler than average up to yesterday, the 4th of February. I'll expect that to tick down further over the next couple of days. These are 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from the Penn State University website for the 7 to 10 day time frame. We've got the ECMDF here on the top, the GFS, have a look at that in a moment. It's on the bottom, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet. Is an area in the atmosphere with high pressure and low pressure being moved around by the jet stream running above. Below extrapolates to low pressure, red to high pressure. You can see what the ECMDF is doing in the 7 to 10 day time frame. It's got this deep trough of low pressure centering around the UK. We're a little bit on the cold side of the jet stream as well. The jet stream is something like that. So it looks as though as we go into the second week of February, we'll be turning increasingly unsettled. Not overly mild, actually quite cold really, because the flow is coming from the northern part of the Atlantic. So it's more of that sort of air coming out of Canada and Greenland type situation for the second week of February. Quite cool and quite unsettled as well. The GFS is very similar. The only difference is that the trough is centered a little bit further north. Really strong jet stream coming out of America and across the Atlantic like that. So both of the models are indicating quite an unsettled spell setting up, maybe even a little bit stormy through the second week of February. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next 2 weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Starting off pretty cold and staying cold through the next few days. So this is for London, by the way. Up to the end of the week, we keep things pretty cold. Over the weekend, we see the temperatures lifting up a little bit, going back closer to average, but still nothing to get overly excited about. And then as we go through the second week of February into the second half of the month, we've got a lot of scatter appearing here, so it's very indeterminate, I think, what's happening there as we go into the middle part and then the second part of February. We have got several ensemble members that are mild, and we have got several ensemble members that are cold. So clearly a split is still there. And we saw it last night when we did Ensembles Watch. A split is still there for the middle and second half of February in terms of where the pattern is going to go. Obviously, with that sudden stratospheric warming event taking place in the coming days, we have got to be watching out for the chance of blocking, but it just depends how long it takes to get that warming into the troposphere. And not every time do you get the warming into the troposphere, by the way. Sometimes it doesn't propagate down and impact the boundary layer of the atmosphere where weather is taking place in the troposphere. So the question is whether we will actually get a tropospheric response, because we don't always. And if we do, how long it takes. And then, of course, the unknown after that is where the blocking sets up, if the blocking sets up. So there's lots of ifs and buts and caveats, as ever, with these sudden stratospheric warming events. No single stratospheric warming event has the same outcome, if you like. So we're just going to have to wait and see where things settle down as we go into the second half of February. Temperature anomalies are looking like that. This is taking us from the 5th through to 13th of February. We're coming out colder than average UK and Ireland, as is most parts of Central and Western Europe as well. The warmer than average temperature anomalies remain in the east and the southeast of Europe for the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies from the 5th through to the 13th of February are coming out more or less on the dry and average side for the UK, and the same is true for many northern and central parts of Europe as well. So this is how the GFS is looking for Thursday. We're still being quite cold air on Thursday, and we've got a weather system starting to move in from off the Atlantic Ocean. That could bring a mix of rain, sleet, or maybe even some snow Thursday into Friday for eastern parts of the country. We'll look at that on Snow Watch. Certainly for the northwest, it's mainly going to be rain, but something a little bit more wintry might happen down in the east. After that, we build this ridge up from the southwest, and that's still within quite cold air as we go into the start of the weekend. But then the Atlantic pushes through on Sunday. It starts to turn milder and more unsettled. And then as we go through into next week, we keep these winds coming from the Atlantic, maybe hinting at going a little bit stormier there around the 14th. That's Valentine's Day, of course. A little bit stormier for the north and the west. That's how we go to day 10, still in that largely flat westerly pattern. Notice these pink and purple colours continue around Iceland and Greenland. So up to day 10, this latest run of the GFS6 run is not seeing anything particularly changing in terms of the polar vortex. We keep a very strong polar vortex up to day 10. Obviously, we would have to wait and see second half of February whether that PV starts to weaken, and we'll know if it is weakening because we'll lift those pink and purple colours out of Iceland and Greenland. We'll initially replace them with blues and greens, and then if we actually start to form a blocking area of high pressure, blocking feature, those blues and greens will go towards yellows and oranges. And when you get the yellows and oranges in over Greenland, that tells you you've got a proper Greenland high, you've got a proper blocking feature. And, of course, we just have to wait and see whether that does set up. But certainly going up to day 10, we're still in quite a flat and unsettled and fairly mildish, I suppose, westerly flow. Eastern air looking like that, so the end of the week sees the Atlantic coming through, and that's bringing a mix of rain, sleet, maybe a little bit of snow few places as well. Generally quite cold to the start of the weekend, but then we get this push from the Atlantic on Sunday. That is a much milder day, although it does look a little bit stormy for northern and western parts of the country. And then as we go into next week, keeping it unsettled, keeping the wind coming in from off the Atlantic, we're going up towards day 10. Where it's turning quite unsettled and stormy, actually. We've got tightly packed ice parts here, so that's gale force winds hitting us on day 10. 15th of February. And it's fairly cool air that's coming out of Greenland as well. So it's back to that sort of pattern that we had a lot this winter, which is a fairly cold variety of zonality. So it is still zonal, it is still all very westerly, but the air is coming out of Canada and Greenland again, so probably cold enough to bring significant snow showers to northern parts of the country. In the south, of course, the problem is always whether you dig that cold air right way down into the south. Probably mostly rain showers for southern parts of the country. But again, you'll notice quite a strong polar vortex continues with those pink and purple colours there close to Greenland. So what we can say is that we're going to keep it generally quite cold up to the weekend, and then we're going to go into a westerly pattern probably through the second half of the coming weekend and into next week. And that probably takes us up to the middle part of the month. Possibly a little bit stormy perhaps at times next week, with bouts of rain and some quite cold air thrown in too. Could bring some snow to northern parts of the country. At this stage, to day 10, there's no sign of anything significant happening in terms of lifting out the polar vortex and replacing it with blocking. But if the stratospheric warming is occurring around the 10th to the 12th of February, you wouldn't really expect to see much of a response by the 15th of February anyway. It's a little bit too soon, although I did show you that scenario at the end of December 1984, which had a very rapid response at the start of January 1985. Doesn't usually work out as quick as that. Normally there is a time lag, and it could be anything from like a week or 2 weeks, possibly up to a month. So we just need to wait and see where this goes into the second half of February. My anticipation is that we will increase the blocking signal into the second half of February, and it will be a matter of where that blocking is sitting. I suspect in the second half of February and probably early March, somewhere will get very, very cold and locked into a cold blocking pattern, but it might not necessarily be us. Right, so that's how things are looking up to middle of February. This evening we're going to do Snow Watch. There will be a little bit of snow coming up tonight and tomorrow, so if you want to know where and when and how much, come back for Snow Watch this evening. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.